Salida, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim and welcome to the Sounds German review of the new Fjort album Couleur. Fjort is a band from Aachen in Germany. It's a three-man project and Couleur is their third full-length album. Lots of threes in this one. So far I only knew the band from their name being dropped here and there in conversations, mostly in comparison to other bands, even though I feel that, at least judging by this album, some of these comparisons, like Heretoire, were not really too apt. So, what does the trio offer you on this disc? Well, the opener, Südwärts, starts you off with guitars that slowly get louder in the background, slow but very heavy drumming, and of course the somewhat aggressively shouted vocals. Overall, the track felt more hard rockish to me, especially once the introduction-y part is over, so to say. The very straight guitars and drums feel somewhat odd in the grand scheme of things, looking at the album as a whole, but it goes along with the rest of the song quite well. And I especially like the emphasized single hits on the drums, which just sound like someone slams a car door shut right in your ears. It sounds really heavy and saturated. I wish they would have used their production to make the instruments sound this heavy more often, because there were times later down the road on the album where I really felt that especially the drums sounded a bit too thin. The album title track Couleur, on the other hand, is far more in the post-hardcore or post-metal corner, whatever you want to call it really. Layered guitars with some drawn-out, dreamy, slow riffs in the background and a surprisingly political but also neutral message. Really, this track could have possibly been renamed to Pay Attention or Go Vote or Take Part in Your Political Happenings or whatever, as it draws some really grim pictures of people getting muzzled for the wrong opinions and an analogy that a bullet in the barrel is equaling the message to keep unwanted opinions to oneself and just shut up. It ends basically in the message to stand up for oneself and every opinion should have equal worth, and Fjord managed to present this message without ham-fisting it into a certain direction, which I felt was a really pleasant surprise. If anything, the aforementioned soft and drawn-out riffs don't do the dark setting much justice. It comes off as a pretty stark contrast to each other, but it was still an overall really enjoyable composition. The track Raison, on the other hand, has a very clear political leaning against fascism, and I have to say, I'm not too sure if I should find the line about having 1933 reasons to see a dark future and to fight it clever or cringy. On the contrary, I found the line about people asking if what happened quote-unquote back then was even real because the photos from then are so pixelated and black and white is something I could actually really see happening these days. And I feel that Fjord, maybe even unintentionally, hit a bit of a darker side of our zeitgeist with this line. However, Fjord integrate these kinds of riffs, something that reminded me a lot of Heretoire from Germany or even Alcest from France, generally all those bands who mix shoegaze elements with especially metal, again and again over the course of the album, and I found myself liking these parts the most by far. In fact, I even noticed myself wandering off here and there in my mind and focusing especially on these parts and wondering if they could do maybe a whole album just consisting of that. Be it in the middle of Raison or Windchief or Zutage, these warm, sunny, relaxing and drawn-out guitars are something that you will find time and again on this album, sandwiched between clearly harder riffing and drumming and the shouts, but they go along with the tracks seamlessly. And even though it goes together so seamlessly, I couldn't help myself seeing here potential for a whole album that would go into an entirely different direction than Couleur ultimately did. Far less diverse, on the other hand, are the vocals. You might have noticed I repeatedly mentioned shouting, and that is because there is not much else to be found on this album in terms of singing. Pretty much from start to finish you will find almost exclusively these half-aggressively shouted lyrics, which might be my biggest point of contention for this disc. Not because the shouts are bad. While they're not something out of the ordinary, they are done very competently. However, with some parts I just felt calmer vocals would have fitted the tracks and the topics at hand better, while some tracks would have fared far better with more aggression in my opinion. Vinci, for example, came off as this romantic track about sacrifice and adoration. It felt like a prime topic for a slower composition and some held back vocals, and in the middle you can even somewhat see that happening, but this part is still surrounded by aggressive shouting. Raison, on the other hand, a song that could seemingly dodge the title Fuck Nazis or something similar just by a hair's breadth, could have easily done with unleashing more aggressive vocals. Looking at the topic, it feels the vocals feel, I don't know, almost somewhat lethargic. Over the course of the album, there is this one constant level of aggressiveness in the performance, and while it fits most of the time, dialing it down or up here and there would have probably reflected the mood of certain songs better, at least that's what I feel. It's like there's this constant amount of anger that never dies down for a bit, but also never rises any higher, no matter the context or situation. In terms of compositions, the album offered a lot to like, however. The aforementioned relaxing, almost hypnotic riffs go along pretty seamlessly with the harder aspects of the album. Fjord managed to create both melancholic and uplifting melodies, as you can find, for example, in the hook of Fingerbreit. Sure, the line about life just setting a new course for you when you fall is not exactly the deepest poetry around, but the melody in that part is just absolutely motivating and uplifting. Just generally speaking, I feel that while the band has many strong lyrics on this album, there's also a lot of filler though. Stuff where the band goes on and talks but doesn't say too much actually or progress the track a lot in any way. As per usual though, since my reviews are aimed at non-German listeners, this is something you can probably ignore unless you go and translate the lyrics yourself. I should, however, also point out that I had the 1933 line aside, no lyrics here, absolutely nothing that made me roll my eyes or cringe or anything like that, and given the topics the album covers, this is quite an accomplishment actually. You can easily fall in a lot of traps here. I guess it can't be denied there is a good portion of angst and anger in the tracks of Couleur, but the band managed to keep it refreshingly cringe-free. So let's get to the conclusion here. Couleur was a bit of a slow burner for me, and the aforementioned criticisms made me not fall madly in love with the album, but I definitely enjoyed my time with it once I got into it a bit more. I would still love to see what Fjord could do if they vary their singing style up a bit and maybe give the post elements a bit more of a center stage, but you get an emotional post-hardcore album nonetheless, something rich with atmosphere. And something with a lot of different atmospheres too, going from deep melancholy to really uplifting and motivational compositions. Something that can hit you like a punch while also paint pictures of a rising sun all within one album. Not every track is a banger and not every line of text is gold, but you will also not find a single dud on this disc in my opinion. So if this post-hardcore / post-metal music is your kind of thing, I would definitely recommend you give this one a try. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like or just subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I will post at least one review per week, more content whenever I can manage to do it. You can also follow me on Facebook and or Twitter, links are in description, and also in the description you will find shopping links for this album and any relevant music videos or album streams if there are any. And if you have listened to this album, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, I hope to see you again next time, have a nice day, Salida!